I don't know if I can live up to that expectation, but I'll try. Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for inviting me to speak here, and thank you all for joining on this beautiful Vancouver day. So part of really my mission is to help normalize the discussion, the conversation around mental health in our community. I think it's something, as you can probably agree, it's often a taboo subject. It's sometimes uncomfortable to talk about. And then part of it is also to spread this message that whatever you're going through, whatever your struggles, mental illness, no mental illness, deep struggles, that you can get through those struggles, that it doesn't have to last, that your current state doesn't have to be your permanent state, essentially. So that's pretty much what I've been doing for 5-10 years in the past, through my SFU student days and volunteering and working in the mental health field at Children's Hospital, and then now working for myself in a company called Mavericks. So from my perspective, there's really two conversations that are going on at the same time around mental health that relate to mental health. And I'm wondering if you guys have any ideas of what those are. Any thoughts on what those might be? Two distinct conversations there.
Well, I'll take a guess.
Yeah.
One conversation is that it's okay and socially acceptable, or that it's not.
Stigmatizing.
Yeah, the stigma aspect of mental health and mental illness. Any other thoughts?
The awareness of mental illness and mental health.
That's definitely part of it. Yeah.
So you can't necessarily see mental health as much as you can see other ailments.
Yeah. So these are I think components of the one side of the spectrum that I'm talking about, is the mental health struggle, is the mental illness component of mental health. And it's often, it's sort of on that awareness building, also the struggle part. But then there's also a whole other conversation happening on the mental health performance side, mental wellness, high performance kind of in the mindset. So my goal with this session is to try to cover both of those if we can today, if that makes sense. So just if you're wondering a little bit who I am, I figured the best, easiest way to share my story is through a video. So you guys okay to watch a quick video? My story? Okay. Mental illness no longer has to be a life sentence. And that's more true today than ever before in history, and that really gets me excited. Hi, my name is Brent, and I run a social enterprise called Mavericks, which is dedicated to empowering young people to overcome their mental health struggles and perform at a higher level and have fun and just live more fully. So we do that through speaking and workshops and training programs that we've developed. Well, the early days of my mental health struggles that I can remember are the early days of my college years. And I just spent a couple years in a ski resort after high school, just partying, working, snowboarding. And I thought I'd give university a try and transform myself into an active, engaged student, and just start learning more about the world. And I thought that would be a pretty simple, straightforward process. But in fact, it was quite challenging. And what I did was essentially isolate myself. And really that's when I started to struggle and get paranoid, and just my mental health really started slipping. A psychologist actually identified what I was going through as psychosis, and I didn't understand what that meant at first, but I got on medication and made a decent recovery, but I sort of got back to my old routines and had a relapse about 1.5 years later, which was much worse. And the result of that was attempting suicide, just not seeing a way out and just seeing my future getting worse and worse. Fortunately, my family was close enough to me and around me to get me to a hospital, get stabilized. And that was the point at which I realized, okay, this is real. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in the hospital. And you might think that was devastating, which it sort of was, but at the same time it was a big relief, because that gave me something to latch onto, something to study, something to understand. And by doing that and just committing myself to get as fit and healthy as possible to never experience that again, and to share my story, my journey to help other people, that's been a driving force for my recovery since. One important part of my journey and recovery has been tapping into and really stumbling into the mental health community, which is essentially a collection of people and groups and organizations, nonprofits that are dedicated to supporting young people with their mental health. So if you're struggling with your mental health, I really encourage you to tap into that and seek out that support and education and guidance, because it's one of the most empowering things you can do in your journey of recovery. One of the most powerful parts of my journey has been tapping into the outdoor sports and hiking and mountains and rock climbing, trail running, because early in my struggles, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to school, hang out with my friends, drive a car, read a newspaper. And my mom was always a big hiker consistently for decades. And I remember I said, "Mom, take me on a hike." And we went on a very simple short hike, and I'll never forget the peacefulness I felt in that forest. It was an incredible feeling in a time where I just felt horrible mentally all the time. And it just drove me to do more. And that whole summer, we just went on hiking every weekend. It was the one thing each week I looked forward to, was that weekly hike with my mom. And it was so therapeutic. And eventually I got into the outdoor club at my university and the Alpine Club of Canada, and into eventually mountaineering, and then climbing some big mountains and just taking it to the next level. And just that whole process of growth and peacefulness and therapeutic nature of the outdoors is something that's been a huge benefit to not only my mental health, but my overall health. And so for you watching this, I don't promote the idea that you have to climb mountains or you have to do outdoor sports to recover, to feel good. You gotta find that thing for you that makes you come alive, that gets you excited, that you care about, that allows the stress of your daily life to melt away because you get so into it. That's what the outdoors and mountains is to me, and that's one of the benefits it provides, and I think you can find that in anything.
Right.
Thank you guys for that. And so obviously that took place over a long period of time, 8-10 years. But sort of goes the whole spectrum of struggling and performing and everything in between. But I'm just curious, what stands out for you guys in that video? Any messaging or ideas stand out for you guys?
Reaching out to others in a time when you feel really isolated.
So key, right? And the experience I had with reaching out to others was actually other people noticing my struggles before I did, which again is key to that support system to have around ourselves. Right? Because when I was struggling, there's a word for it with psychosis, especially, that you don't recognize your own mental health struggles, which is often the case with all these illnesses, right? Mental health challenges, because they're invisible to the outside, and we can easily hide them from others. Right? Yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts that come up for you guys?
I think something that brings you joy, that you're passionate about.
Yeah. I think that's relevant with whether you're struggling with your mental health or not. Right? I think that's the high performance wellness piece of, like, find that thing that gets you excited, that pulls you towards it, and that gives you an excuse to promote wellness in yourself, right, and others. So, yeah. So I want to shift into sort of the mental health side of the topic, and just share a few stats that are out there around mental health that I found from Canadian Mental Health Association, Center for Mental Health and Addictions, and the United Nations. That suicide accounts for 24% of all deaths among Canadians aged 15 to 24. 24%. That's a quarter of deaths. It's the second leading cause of death for that age group in Canada. Mental illness costs the Canadian economy over $50 billion a year. In any given week, over at least 500,000 people employed Canadians are unable to work due to mental health problems. Globally, around 800,000 suicides per year, which is more than all wars combined. And if you think of how much we talk about, how much awareness there is around suicide and mental health compared to all the wars, it's a big difference, right? And there's estimates that about 20 times that number attempt suicide each year. So around 15, 16 million people per year attempting suicide. According to the UN, globally, mental health and substance use disorders are the leading cause of disability worldwide. So question, what do you notice about those stats in general altogether?
Really high.
They're high numbers, yeah?
I feel like
surprising
media is
sometimes.
not really covering that too.
Oh,
Like it's not really talked about.
Yeah. But also this idea that they're all on the negative end of the spectrum. Right? They're all very negative stats, right? And sometimes that's key to raise that awareness. But I think that sometimes perpetuates the stigma, the discomfort in talking openly about mental health because of the negativity associated with it. So just to throw it out there, what do you guys think are some of the barriers to talking openly about it? But aside from that negativity, any thoughts on some barriers to opening up, as you mentioned, sharing your struggles, or just having open dialogue around mental health with people, even people close to you?
That there will be a burden if you
Burden, yeah.
tell somebody about it.
Yeah, that's a big one for a lot of people.
Like judgment, that you might not meet someone's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't have like a physical look or
Manifestation. Like visible.
It's like the person, people that you're telling, like they're believing what you're saying is how you're feeling, but
Right, there can be
it
some
doesn't
doubt
have that
or
physical, so
Uh-huh.
might be that like feeling of doubt.
in yourself or from
Believable?
others, or yeah.
From both sides,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe they won't help you and then you'll just be let down again.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you do after that, kind of thing?
Yeah.
So a lot of barriers, right? But curious, what do you guys think we can do to break down some of those barriers in our networks, in our communities? And
I think becoming a better question asker, I guess, actually. It's like, even when we're checking in with peers and friends, and there's like the classic like, hi, how are you? But maybe just checking in with eye contact and like touch and like things that actually generate human connection and like open up space for vulnerable dialogue, and like actually checking in and coming from a compassionate place helps.
couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's like, how are you? Oh, I'm busy. I'm fine. I think on that note, one of the most enlightening things for myself was when I started to share my story with others. It was the terrifying thing to do at first, but at the same time, almost every single person I opened up to would open up to me about something. My brother, my uncle, my cousin, myself. I've struggled with this, he struggled with that, she struggled with this. So I think starting that process ourselves, as you say, by being vulnerable, opening up that space, by sharing a little bit of our journey, opens up the space for others to share theirs. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah. Any other thoughts on how to break down some of these barriers? And
Even just like, maybe if you do notice that someone's not really being themselves, just checking in and just saying like, hey, how are you doing? Like, I noticed you haven't quite been yourself lately. I just wanted to check if like I can help you with anything.
Yeah. Which can be hard to do sometimes, right? It can be uncomfortable to even confront someone like that. But what I tell people is like, it's the same as any relationship. It's built on trust, pretty much, and caring, right? Like, trust is the foundation. You care about someone, so that's the impetus to start that dialogue. I think to spark it, come from that place of confidentiality if needed, and just caring for the person and expressing that, however best fits that situation. But
I think with mental illness, it's really tough because I feel like there's a lot of times not enough awareness around what to do for somebody that is suffering, because somebody has cancer, there's steps, but when somebody has a mental health issue, sometimes you don't know how to approach it the best way, or what to do, or how to help them. And I think that's just like society way that we need to work on that.
build that knowledge base.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of somebody has cancer, you don't tell them to do this, but when somebody has bipolar, you don't know necessarily what the right thing to do is, and that's just
Sure.
awareness. And I don't know how that, where that conversation goes, but I think it's how to help people that are really suffering and what to do.
Very common,
Yeah.
And it flows into my next question, like if we notice ourselves or loved ones or friends struggling, where can we point them to? What resources are out there? Any thoughts on that? Where you would point someone or have? Or?
I think definitely a resource such as, like you mentioned in your video, having counseling is a great first step. To really have someone to speak to who has a good understanding of what you might be going through and really understands and can empathize.
Counseling, therapy, psychologists, counselors, yeah.
Like you as a person are a resource. Like, you know, I think each person is so different, but like you say, for you, it was activity. So just going out with your mom for these hikes, sometimes when you're in a tough place, that may be the one thing that you actually look forward to the entire week. So being that resource that helps somebody hold themselves accountable to showing up, just allows them to be seen and know that there's that consistency of like, okay, I gotta show up. Might help.
And a side product is a wellness activity of some sort.
Sure, yeah. Yoga, art, anything.
I think it's just us two being really good with one another and checking in on everyone else when somebody says, so you didn't come in today because they're dealing with, a mental health issue, and somebody saying, oh, they're just, are they really though? And just really checking in on people when they say stuff like that, because it's a conversation that I think is so ingrained in us, we don't realize we're doing it, but it creates that conversation and creates that dialogue and sustains that dialogue. So it's really, like even in work environments, like are we at a stage now where somebody can say, I can't come to work today because I'm dealing with the mental health? Like, I don't know if that's even...
Can be a tricky subject.
So I think that there's so much that needs to be done. Like you as a person can know it, but like, do you feel comfortable explaining that to other people?
In my previous work, there's a lady who was diagnosed with bipolar, and she told the secretary, and she was let go.
Oh, wow.
Instead of helping her out, or she was given a sick leave or something, you just, okay, somebody like was diagnosed with that in here in our office. It's so sad because we don't know how to deal with that in our workplace before. And I'm sure this always will, if somebody will discuss that one, I don't know if the policy of Sage or going forward, so that's the problem. You just simply can't open up with even your friend, you simply can't open your health issues because it will stigmatize you and people will just back off at you. Oh, somebody will just say, okay, you discuss something like, and the perception that she is weird or something like that, so you probably will be out of place. So sometimes it stigmatizes you.
Which is the importance of that culture shift we have to have, right, in society, in our communities, in our workspaces, in our personal relationships, to not judge, as you mentioned, to not stigmatize, to not isolate the person. In my observations, like isolation for someone who's struggling with mental illness is the worst thing, right? And so really, as you mentioned, like being there for the person as accountability for wellness or support is huge, huge, huge. So I want to move on to a little bit of a discussion around the high performance end, just to touch on that, just because I think merging, that's part of what I want to do in the video that I shared earlier, was like merging those two discussions, right? Talking about high performance and wellness, mental health and wellness with people that struggle, and like merging those two conversations, because I see them as often separate. The people in the mental health community are kind of very focused on the illness, the treatment part of things, and like the prevention, the upstream. The performance side is the upstream, and the preventative, and sort of that's where the fulfillment, the excitement, the happiness comes from, is that high end of the spectrum of performance. And so I'm just curious, what when you think of high performance or wellness or mental wellness, what components of that do you think of for your own life in terms of what makes up sort of high performance wellness life, would you say, in your sense?
Like personally, individually?
Yeah.
For me, I know that I can go down a very slippery slope if I don't meditate. That's a really big one for me. I have to do it at some point during my day. And then like running in specific, running and weightlifting, very specifically, I find really, really helpful for me. Yeah.
I find even just the basics of getting enough sleep, getting good food can really make a difference.
Sleep, food, running, mind, meditating.
Sometimes even just like time alone to read my book or meditate as well is really key. I think I can start to feel burnt out if I have like too much going on, and so just taking even that like 15-20 minute break to just kind of decompress and collect my thoughts makes a huge difference.
Recovery, rest, common themes. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Gratitude. That's a big component too of that positive psychology.
More and more science talking about gratitude and performance and happiness, satisfaction. Yeah. Do you have a gratitude practice at all? Is it journaling or thinking or meditating? Or?
Journal.
So to me, high performance is really about two core things. It's like building capacity in yourself, capacity to handle workloads, capacity to handle stress, capacity to handle your relationships, your hobbies, and also the other end of that spectrum of rest and recovery, having that space and time to reflect, to recharge, to recover from going full out. So this is kind of this push-pull strategy I learned from a guy named Robin Sharma, some of you guys know, may know. He talks about push really hard and then pull back really hard. And so if you can have schedule in that time, you know it's exam season or Black Friday season or holiday season, you're going to push hard, but there's an end to that pushing, that it's not merging into just a murky soup of sort of non-stop stress kind of that hovers over you. So having that push-pull, as you mentioned, this model that I created is really my overall view of wellness in how I see it. The bottom is kind of the foundation, your values, being clear on what you value and having a list and a hierarchy. Being clear on your values helps you make decisions based on your values. So if sometimes your values can conflict with decisions, but the hierarchy helps you decide on what decision fulfills those top values. Support system, key to have people that you can trust and rely on in good times and bad. People that you can pursue wellness with. The mind, body, fuel, and rest are kind of your daily strengthening exercise. Some of you guys mentioned some of these things already with your mind, the meditation, the rest strategies, fueling your body, and moving your body. With fuel, one really cool trick I found from Adam Hart. Anyone know Adam Hart? He's based in Squamish. He's nutrition.
He's a friend of mine.
Oh yeah.
Golden.
Oh cool. Yeah.
I was actually roommates with him.
Adam's amazing. Yeah. Okay. You guys should have Adam in speaking. He's a speaker as well, and he's an author of The Power of Food, a book. And he talked about this idea around nutrition of 80-20 principle applied to nutrition for people that can't go fully vegan or fully vegetarian or don't have too many restrictions on their diet. Like the 80-20 is like 80% whole foods, plant-based diet, 20% eat whatever the heck I want because I want to go to the pub and have a burger and a beer with my buddies, kind of thing. So that's a general guideline I try to follow. It varies over time, but that can be helpful sometimes. But fuel, obviously key, and then the top part is really your mission, your inspiration, your purpose, and your dream. So just tying that purpose and dream to your values, and clarifying some dream for yourself. So one of my dreams is to climb Mount Everest, and I don't talk about it too much, but it's came to me freshly after being diagnosed, and it pulls me towards it, and it's an excuse to be healthy and fit. It's an excuse to work out. It's an excuse to eat healthy, to rest my body, and I've been working towards that for years, and I'm still working towards it. But it fulfills also my mental health awareness piece as well, to help raise awareness for mental health and mental illness. So just being clear on the purpose, the dream, and the values that tie into those. So any thoughts on that stands out for you guys? Or questions around those topics? Pretty straightforward. Easier said than done sometimes, but yeah. Yeah, and just that other idea around the mindset of self-compassion, right? I had to re-engage with a psychiatrist mental health team this past year. I collapsed after climbing those mountains, and just all the struggles came back. And I had guilt and frustration and shame, and I was like, why is this happening? It was 9 years of wellness, and then I collapsed again. And my psychiatrist said, you gotta have some self-compassion. And like, no one's perfect, and you just have to go easy on yourself sometimes. And I think in our culture today, we are so go, driven to perform and produce. And sometimes it's that taking that time, that moment, whether it's meditation or journaling or just self-reflection, to have that self-compassion in those times. So, can I share a bit of this mountain project with you guys that we're working on? Yeah. Before, and then we'll do some Q&A if you have any questions. So Mind vs. Mountain was born out of this dream to climb Mount Everest, as I mentioned. It was about 2 months after I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I just had this vision that I want to climb Mount Everest, and the people around me were kind of like, Brent, we're trying to get back to reality here, and we're trying to get back to school. Like, I had to drop out of school. I couldn't go to school, couldn't drive a car, couldn't see my friends, couldn't read a newspaper, couldn't, let alone a textbook. And they said, maybe make the goal to get back to school, but they never told me I couldn't do it in the long term. So we had to adjust in the short term, which is often the case. But long term, there was always just no limits, and so been pursuing that since 2007. That was 2007, and got into mountaineering. I really wanted to earn the summit and not just buy my way up the summit, essentially. So started learning the skills of mountaineering. Last year, we were going to climb Mount Denali up in Alaska, and a climbing partner we met a month before the trip. We had another climbing partner, mutual friend. James, the new guy, was a photographer, filmmaker. We became close friends. We climbed the mountain, and he joined this project to still pursue Mount Everest. And so we're in the stage, because I collapsed last year, we had to adjust the timeline. We were going to go this year, earlier this year was going to be the trek, but the climb. Adjust the timeline, and now planning to go to the Himalayas this spring to just check it out, to go to base camp, to climb another mountain, and document our journey along the way with vlogs, and then also with a video series. And we're launching our vlog and this idea and website tomorrow, and so I thought I'd share a little video intro teaser with you guys. It's like a minute, if you guys will indulge me. Okay.
Our journey is about the parallels between climbing mountains and climbing out of mental health struggles. We live in a world where mental health is rarely talked about, and it's often associated with shame and darkness, which leads to far too many people struggling in silence. We want to change that.
And really, that's that idea of like making mental health something aspirational and something fun, just integrating more fun into mental health, which is often such a serious, heavy topic for people. So that's our project that we're launching this website and video series tomorrow. Just wanted to share that with you guys, and thank you for watching. So just wanted to go into Q&A if we got about 5-10 minutes, I think.
Yeah, about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Any questions around any of those topics, around how to open up the dialogue more, mental health, mental illness, stats, or performance side? Yeah.
That you had some relapses,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering, did you ever feel like you can't do it again, and you can't get over it and keep going on? And if so, what steps did you take to kind of get over that mental attitude towards it?
One thing that's coming back very clear in my mind is I actually wrote on my phone, don't believe the disempowering thoughts. And just kept reminding myself of that because they were just flooding my brain. It was like the caseworker told me that because I was climbing these mountains and doing speaking and really busy in my work, the adrenaline and cortisol and dopamine were sort of firing on all cylinders for like 6 to 8 months. And then I got back from Alaska and I had a break from work. I was like, oh, I can chill for a bit and I can just plan my next stages of what I'm going to do. And I think that downtime created stress. Like the hormones were still firing, but I had nothing to worry about. I wasn't on a cliff edge or something, but the fear was still firing off. And so that created just stories in my mind, and because of that illness, it just like perpetuated. And so it was reaching out to my family first and foremost because I didn't feel safe, and then just having patience, self-compassion of just like, this is going to take time. I've recovered from this before. We'll do whatever it takes. And just, I think that attitude of like, we'll do whatever it takes. It's like Tony Robbins says, kids trying to walk, kid keeps falling down trying to walk. But every person in the world walks. Why is that? Because they don't give up until they walk, essentially. Right? And so just having that mindset of like, we know this path, it's different this time, but just having conviction of we can get through this is key. And then the support system, like I deleted all the social media apps off my phone, rested, cleared my schedule, juice, healthy juice, nutrition, exercise, like all the things I mentioned in that framework, just put into place and like kind of attack it with everything we got. And that's what it took for me, and I think that's what it takes for a lot of people. It's a multi-pronged approach, essentially.
Like just your awareness, just like your awareness of like what can happen when you are in that episode, like helped you to get out of it. Just knowing how to deal with it because you've been through it.
Yes, which made it easier than the first time, for sure. So I had that insight, that awareness. But it still didn't make it much easier. It was still a struggle, but it was just having a bit of that more hope and awareness. Yeah.
I was going to ask, who is your greatest champion then during that time?
Oh man,
Talk about support.
it's got to be my mom. It stressed her out a lot, but at the same time, she's just right there like that, supporting me, encouraging me, doing whatever it took for me to get better. I mean, my whole family, my 2 sisters, dad, many people, friends that stuck by me, mental health team, but my mom was always, as moms do often, right? They play that role, and she's a champion for sure.
Go mom.
Yeah, well, she's awesome.
Is there something that, because it does sound like there's almost like a change of habit that needs to happen in a sense, is there something that even though your brain and body would be telling you, I don't know how to get out, is there something that would propel you every day to make different changes? Like what is that mantra for you?
Well, in these recent struggles, I had those moments of like, what's the point? I tried so hard, I did all the wellness things, I climbed mountains, like but then I collapsed, like what's the point? Like, more mental health awareness today than ever before, so what's my purpose? And all these kind of negative beliefs and self-limiting beliefs. It was interesting, and I was doubting like Everest, and like, why bother? I can't do that. And it was like, I'll never forget the hike. Again, I went on these recent struggles, and just as soon as I started hiking again, like, oh yeah, I want to climb it. Like I want to get back into it. And like I think finding those things, as I mentioned at the end of that video, the first video, find that thing that gets you excited, that pulls you towards it, and just like, okay, if I want to get back into climbing, I have to get healthier again. I have to exercise more. I have to connect with my friends again. So I think finding that thing that is wellness related that pulls you towards it. It's sort of, again, I just call it like an excuse to be healthy. Because I'm naturally lazy. I'm naturally want to sit on the couch and do nothing. Like, but I think having those excuses to be fit and healthy and perform at a high level whatever gets you excited. I think it's different for each person, as I mentioned. Like, it doesn't have to be the outdoors or mountains. Some people say, "Oh, you gotta climb mountains. You gotta climb mountains. It's the best thing in the world." It's like, I don't have access to mountains, or I don't have interest in the mountains. So just finding that thing, whatever it is for each individual. I got a couple of smoothie bottles to give away.
Oh, nice!
I have two.
We have a gift for you. You're not supposed to bring us.
These are Mavericks smoothie bottles. So the Mavericks logo, the M is actually designed to look like a mountain.
Oh.
So I want to do some trivia.